Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching this coffee break webinar on navigating the 900 series software. My name is Robin Sridharan. I'm product manager for vibration controllers here at Data Physics. The agenda for the short webinar, I'm going to give you a good overview of the 900 series software, not on how to actually set up or run a test, but how tests are saved, how to access data, how to search for data, how to search for archived data that you might have run months or years ago. I'm going to show you a little bit about attachments and how attachments get attached to test setups, and a couple different ways to create new tests. That might save you a little bit of time. So for this presentation, I'm going to jump straight into the 900 series software. So the 900 series software is split up into 4 different tabs. There is the Manage Test tab, which is your portal into what we call your data server or your test database. And that's where we're going to spend most of the time today. The Run Test tab is where you are if you're actually executing a test. So you've got an actual test running on your 900 series hardware. If you're reviewing data that you've already taken in the past, you'd be in the Review tab. And then the System Configuration tab is just a view into what systems you have both licensed for and what you're connected to. So if I check Hide Offline, you can see I have a DP901 connected and my data server, which is where my data is housed. And this is actually just my PC here. We also have, before I jump into the Manage Test screen, the DP menu here, which some people don't realize that that's an actual menu. But a lot of the advanced functionality, if you have some automation features that you purchased from us, and those are accessed through here. Some of the finer software preferences are also set up here. All right, so I'm going to spend most of the time here in the Manage Test tab. The Manage Test tab is your portal into the test database. So anytime you create a test setup, a test profile, or anytime you run that test profile and acquire data, that data gets saved and archived here into the Manage Tests, into the test database, and is viewable in the Manage Test screen. So for example, you could see here that each of these is a test profile that I have created and saved. And if I click on the plus button next to some of these, you can see that every time I've actually run that test. So if I wanted to go and actually open a specific test to run, I can just double click on it and it will open it in the Run Test screen. If I wanted to review data, so coming back to Manage Test now, you can see the test that's currently open gets highlighted in green. Say I wanted to go and review data that I've taken in a previous run, I can expand the test and double click on the run, and then it'll open it up in the review screen, and I can browse my data and review data, generate reports. So coming back to the Manage Test screen now, that's how you view tests, open up test setups to run them in the Run Test window. This is how you can open up data that you've taken in the past in the review screen to review data, generate plots, and generate reports. But there's a lot more to this test database, and I'm going to go over to the test database, and I'm going to go over that now. So the test database is an archive it's a historical archive of all the data you've acquired on your 900 series system. And you can configure, if you have 3 or 4 test stands, you can configure them all to share the same test database. So all your data can automatically be aggregated into one place, and you can be at any of the test stands, or you can install our software at your desk without any 900 series hardware, and everyone would still have the same view into Manage Tests. You see the same tests and the same data. So the database is fully distributed. You can share a single database between multiple test stands, and you can access without any additional licenses required. You can access your test database from any lab PC or any desk PC that's connected to the same network. So within the test database, obviously, the first thing I'm going to show here is is this tab that says viewing all runs. So by default, we only show you the runs that are that you've from data that you've taken in the last 3 months. And the reason for that is, it's pretty rare that you come down to your desk and you want to see data that's more than 3 months old. So rather than having, to avoid the software taking longer and longer to load, we only load the most recent data into the software, into the managed test screen when you launch it. I need to point out that's actual test data. That's the runs underneath the tests. We still show you every single test that you have created. So you could still open up a test that you might have created 6 months ago. But if you want to view a run from the actual data from that test, that's when you could either come in here and set it to be more than 90 days or uncheck the box to only query recent runs. Or if you know exactly which test you want to view, you can just right-click on the plus button, and it will automatically get all of the data, historical data from that test. Alternatively, you can right-click on this test and click on Retrieve Runs, and it'll retrieve all of the associated runs, regardless of how old or when the data was taken. And you can view them and edit and review them here. So a couple ways that's kind of how we manage your data as it gets larger and larger. And you can that's how you can, if the time does come where you need to look through your historical data, this is how you do that. Now, once you have all of these tests and all these runs saved here, how do you actually filter and sort through them? How do you find what you need? Well, there's a lot of mechanisms to do that here. The first I'll point out is called projects. Now, first thing I'm going to do is there's a little hidden slider here on the left side. If I move that slider out, you can see you can view the list of projects that I have created in my database. Alternatively, you can keep it hidden, and there's a drop-down menu here with that same list. So if I select a project, it's going to only show me tests that have been marked as being a part of that project. So how do you mark a test to be a part of a project? Come over to the right-hand side of a test and click on the little folder icon, and then you can check which projects you want that to be a part of. So that's the first way, the first and just highest level way to create your own filtering, your own sorting based on projects. Now, every time you see a column header like this in the 900 series software, you see there's a little filter. So any grid, this applies for channel table when you're adding signals to a plot, or in the managed test screen, you see a grid like this, and when you hover over the column headers, you see a little filter icon. Well, if you click on that filter icon, it's going to actually let you filter or sort based on that column. So say I wanted to only see random vibration control tests. I can go to the measurement column tab, the measurement column header, and check the box for RVC, which is random vibration control. And I'm only going to see my random vibration control tests. So this can be really useful. It also applies, for example, if I have a set of runs that I've done in the past, I can expand the runs, and I have the same column headers here. So I could expand my runs, and let's say I wanted to see all the runs with a particular operator name. Well, I can check the box, check the filter box, and say operator, and now it's only showing me those runs with that operator name. And similarly, you can always sort just by clicking on the column header. So sort by time created is a common one. Just click on the column header and it'll sort based on that column. Okay, so that's filtering and sorting. That's common throughout the whole 900 series software. The next thing I'm going to talk about is searching. And this is more specific to the managed test screen. So the managed test screen has this search box in the top right corner. And what the search box does, it lets you enter in any search term for any of the metadata that you have saved along with your test setups. So for example, let me expand some of my tests. You can see all of these different columns here: test name, customer name, sensor, serial numbers, test article. These are all searchable from the search window. Let's say I wanted to search for the word random. So profiles where I've entered the word random. I can just type in random here, and it's going to search all of my metadata for places where I've entered the word random into my metadata here. Okay, and this can be really useful. For example, when you're creating your tests, if you enter in all of the metadata as you're running the test, the customer name, test description, it makes the search tool very useful for recalling test data. So for example, you know, I ran something for Electronics Corporation or Electronics Manufacturer A. I can type in electronics, and it'll bring up all the tests and runs that have that word in it. Now, one of the other more useful use cases of this is, say, 6 months down the road, you calibrate your accelerometers and you find that you had a sensor that's out of cal. When you run your tests, if you type in your sensor serial numbers into your channels grid, you can search within this search box for your sensor serial numbers, and it'll bring up all the runs that use that sensor serial number. So for example, I have some sensors in here that start with A13, the serial number field. So you can see now these are all my tests that have used that particular sensor. All right, so there's a lot of power in this search box, and it's extremely useful for recalling data. You're not going to be fumbling through your file shares or trying to find metadata by opening every single test individually. It's really a very useful global search tool for all of your test data. All right, the next thing I'm going to talk about here is our attachments functionality. So we've had attachments in the 900 series software for quite some time now. A lot of people haven't heard about this feature, so I'm going to point it out a little bit here. This attachments column in the managed test grid shows you which tests have attachments. And what is an attachment? Well, attachment is typically an image, but it can be anything. It can be a PDF, it can be a Word doc that gets attached to your test setup or your run data. So for example here, I've got 2 tests that have attachments. Let me focus on this one down here. If I expand the attachments, you can see I have 4 total attachments. And then you can see how many attachments each run has. So now let me click on the actual attachments, the paperclip, and it's going to show me what those attachments actually are. So I've got 5 attachments attached to this particular run, and some of those attachments are saved to the test setup, and then the last one is saved to the actual run. And these can then be exported or saved. And image attachments, specifically image attachments, have the ability to be automatically placed in any reports that you generate from this test data. So if I open up this test data and generate a report, you can see I've got a section for images, and I can tell it to include all images in my report. And my report will have all of the images that I have attached to that test setup. Again, this is how you make a database useful to you. Is if part of your test process is taking a photo of your test structure when it's on the shaker or when it's all instrumented and attaching it to the test, then that test gets archived in the database and can be a part of any report that's generated from that test data. All right, the last thing I'm going to show here in this quick coffee break seminar is a couple different ways to create a new test. So the typical way to create a new test is to come to the Manage Test screen under Tests and click New, and then you select whether you're running what type of test it is, a random vibration control or a transfer function measurement. And then you have some test templates here on the right-hand side that are predefined. So these test templates are very useful. Once you've got a test, you create a test, you get it customized the way you want. You can actually add to this template list. Add your test setup to that template list. So for example, let's say I had this SRS control profile, I had all my plots customized, I had my sensors entered incorrectly. I can right click on it and say save as template. And now it'll show up in the, it'll automatically put it in the templates folder. And I can call this my SRS template. And now when I create a new test, my SRS template shows up, and it's going to be a carbon copy of that test as a starting point. So that's one of the easy ways to create a new test without having to go through and redefine everything every single time. The second method, and I like this method quite a bit more, is just to right click on any test and just say save as. What that's going to do is it's going to open up the test, open up a copy of the test. You can see copy in the name. But everything else is going to be exactly as the test was. And then you can go in and make any modifications to the test and hit save. And now I've got a copy of the test that was spawned from this original test. All right, that concludes this this coffee break webinar. Thank you for attending. For more useful tutorials on how to get the most from your 900 series software and hardware, please visit our YouTube channel where we post videos like this all the time.